I'd like to call this meeting to order of October 15th, our regular meeting. Mr. Pavita, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. DiDonato?
Present.
Here. Mr. Markulek?
Here.
Ms. Murray?
Here.
Ms. Peterson?
Here.
Ms. Pollara? Mr. Sawicki?
Here.
Ms. Tracy?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Can we all rise for the flag salute, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. We'll start with our open public meeting. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Hopewell Valley Regional Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof communicated to the Hopewell Valley News, the Times, and the Trentonian on January 9, 2018. This meeting notice was also sent to Comcast Cable and Verizon Fios. The board reserves the right to enter into executive session during all meetings of the Board of Education. The meeting is being videotaped for the purpose of board review, future reference, preparation of the minutes, and viewing on Comcast Channel 19, Verizon Fios Channel 32, and the school district website, www.hvrsd.org. So public session is now open.
Minutes.
Oh, 15 minutes first? Okay, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of September 17th and October 1st?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Motion carries.
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry, we're working without one of our critical people at this moment. Okay, our first public comment. Members of the public are invited to address the board on any matter for a maximum of 3 minutes during this portion of the meeting. You are asked to state your name, address, and municipality. In response to your comments, the Board of Education may respond or direct the superintendent to do so. The board may also opt to take the matter up at a future meeting so that the matter is researched by district administration. Public comment is now open.
Would it be appropriate now?
Yes,
Speak?
thank you.
Great. Hi. So, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Paul Takis. I am a resident of Pennsylvania, a 13-year employee of this district, and I'm representing the HVEA tonight. I've had an interesting year. 11 months ago, I was elected and have been serving on my local district school board. The certificated professionals in my home district are also working on an expired contract, working themselves through the process of fact-finding. At our June and September regular board meetings, I was on the receiving end of nights like tonight, listening to the collective frustrations of our teachers and community members. So I stand in front of you tonight with what I feel is a profoundly unique perspective. I get that you did not join the board to be a part of nights like tonight. I understand the frustrations of budgetary restraints and tax caps. I can empathize with you concerning the difficulty of the job. However, I have spent the last few years in conversations with my colleagues who are questioning their decision to enter the profession. This is because the profession has dramatically changed in the last few years. Increased expectations in the classroom are placed on our members on an annual basis. Society has looked to us to address the ever-increasing emotional needs of our students, from anxiety, depression, to other health issues. All things that our members have embraced as part of education in the 21st century. But the physical and emotional toll placed on our members cannot be ignored. The stress is real. The fatigue is real. Combining this with increased financial instability is causing many of our members to doubt their futures in this profession. I've heard members talk about steering their children away from seeking degrees in this profession. That's heartbreaking. I am able to empathize with you. I am asking you to grapple with the realities of the demands being put on our members. Members who, often without compensation, give up time with their own families to help raise the children of this community. Members who are being trained to be the last line of defense in protecting the children of this community from unthinkable threats. Members who find themselves working under an expired contract every 3 years, adding to their financial insecurity. Members whose gross pay goes up, but take-home pay goes down. You cannot make us whole from the financial losses we have incurred the last few years. However, this association, by your own admission, has had a history of being accommodating to the needs of this board. This association for decades has contributed beyond the statutory requirements for healthcare contributions. We now are asking you to empathize with us. Help us work towards an agreement that makes all of our members feel like valued members within this community. I thank you for your time tonight, your consideration, and your service to this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Takis.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Rizziello. I live at 66 Stanford Road East, and I live in Brandon Farms, Hopewell Township. My husband and I moved to Hopewell almost 20 years ago. We are proud parents of 2 graduates from the Hopewell Valley Regional School District. When we decided to move here in 1999, it was because of the excellent reputation of the school system. Before buying our home, we did extensive research on all the neighboring districts to see where we thought we would find the best education for our children. We also took the same time to visit some of the schools in a few of the surrounding districts for a comparison. After visiting the Hopewell Elementary School and talking to several educators from the district, we knew that Hopewell was a perfect fit for our family. We knew the taxes were higher than where we lived previously, but we were fine with this since we knew we were getting a great value for our tax dollars with this exceptional school district. It was actually cheaper to move to Hopewell than to pay tuition for 2 children at any of the private schools. So for us, it was a real bargain to actually move here. The years my children spent in our Hopewell schools proved to us that we made the right decision to move here. Our children received a quality education. The teachers always went above and beyond. My children are doing well today. They're 23 and 26 in their full-time jobs because of the A+ education they received here that laid down a solid foundation for them. As a taxpayer, the one thing I have learned and believe to be very true is that it is the quality of the school system that can make or break the values of the homes in that district. In Hopewell, we are lucky and blessed to have an effective and caring set of teachers that are dedicated to our children. This exceptional reputation of our district also attracts future employees who want to start their careers here as an educator. In order to continue to attract the best and the brightest educators to our school district, they must be presented with a competitive and quality contract of employment. Our children have to have the best and the brightest, and they deserve this, to be working with them. We must do everything we can to obtain and to keep those quality individuals teaching in our district. Keeping all this in mind, it is imperative that you settle a fair and respectful contract with the educators in our district. They deserve and have earned nothing less.
Thank you, Ms. Rizziello.
Good evening. My name is Chris Carpenter. I live, my home is in Brandon Farms, section of the township. I have resided in Hopewell for 25 years in 2 different locations. When my family moved, we moved across town. We stayed in Hopewell because of these schools. My adult children went through the Hopewell Valley Regional Schools. I credit their success while in school and professionally as adults, in large part to the teachers who connected with them personally while attending Hopewell Valley Public Schools. The topics and careers that interested them were identified and encouraged by the teachers. The topics and careers were encouraged by the teachers. Paths to careers in those fields were encouraged by the professional educators and the innovative curriculum of this excellent school district. Yes, by all accounts, this is an excellent school district. There are many parts of your responsibilities as board members that I don't understand. But here's one thing I totally understand. Everything teachers do in the classroom all day should matter to you. Because of the work of each and every school in this district, they should all be focused exclusively on what is best for the kids that they are teaching. And you should understand the way teachers understand that those kids and their needs change from building to building, from room to room, from day to day. Because of this, we should value and support and encourage and inspire and recognize and push and protect the people doing the most direct work of educating our children. Great teachers are your greatest asset. When our teachers are good, we should reward them. When our teachers speak up, we should listen to them. When we have teachers that connect with our students, that value our families, that have earned the respect of their colleagues, we should do everything. You should do everything to keep them. Otherwise, you are not performing the role of a member of the Board of Education, and the only important role you perform in the process, deciding what is best for our students, has been neglected. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter.
Good evening. I'm Teresa Cross from 111 Ingleside Avenue. I've been a Hopewell Township resident, taxpayer, and voter for over 25 years. I'm also the parent of a Hopewell graduate who is a college graduate, Division I college scholarship athlete, thanks to the staff members at Hopewell Valley Schools, and a current junior in the high school. I had not planned on being here tonight nor speaking until I heard that the Hopewell Valley teachers started the year without a settled contract. Honestly, I'm embarrassed to say that I wasn't aware of that. How could it possibly be that I missed it and that it's true? I don't know all the details. I think I know what they are, but here's what I do know. I know that my tax money and that of my friends and my neighbors is used for everything and anything related to Hopewell Valley Schools. The buildings, the programs, the salary and benefits of the administration, and yes, the salary and benefits of the teachers. I know that my vote and those of my friends and neighbors elected the Board of Ed members to represent our community when making decisions for all things for Hopewell Valley Schools. I know that I voted to pass the referendum because it's what all of you said was necessary and a great idea, and I still agree with that. And I know for 10 months in every year, I and every other parent of students in Hopewell Valley send our children off to the Hopewell Valley teachers and faculty members where they spend most of their waking hours with them and the faculty members, these highly qualified, intelligent, compassionate, resourceful, dedicated human beings. We give them what we treasure most, our children. And I'm sure you see what they do. They teach them. They inspire them. They challenge them. They hold them accountable. They console them. They celebrate with them. They cry with them. These amazing professionals, many of them with advanced degrees, master's degrees, doctorate degrees, they are positive role models for our children. They are sounding boards. They are safety nets. They are people who guide our children, not just to dare to dream big, but to plan, to work, to make those dreams reality. I know that these teachers and faculty members are the most important asset in the Hopewell Valley School District. All of the buildings, the materials, that's stuff. The stuff doesn't teach our children. This stuff wasn't here when my older son went here. He had an amazing education. It's here now. I and my fellow community members showed our support for the district by passing the referendum. So now I'm asking you for what I know is necessary and important, the teaching staff. Whatever the teachers want, I'm sure it's reasonable and possible and quite honestly well-deserved. Don't drag it out any longer so that I need to keep coming to board meetings I'm bringing my friends, my community members, more and more people. We support our teachers. We expect as elected officials you support all of us. So bring your negotiating teams together. Find a way to give the teachers what they need, what they want, what they deserve, and then we'll avoid the horrendous impact that a contentious negotiation has on a community and the schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cross. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Good evening. I'm John Zalat. I've been a teacher at Hopewell Valley since 2000, and I've been a happily employed teacher there since 2000. But I am so frustrated, and I did not plan to speak tonight. I looked back over my pay stubs, and I looked at the 2009 pay stub. I was making $2,500 in 2009 for a 2-week period. I looked at my pay stub from last June. I was making $2,173. I lost money. How many people have worked in the last 9 years and lost money every year? Any of you? How many people have lost money since June? You know, it was nice. I went to look at my pay stub this year. I got a $1,000 bonus for longevity. Thank you. You know what else I got? I got an extra cost in my premiums. My paycheck went down from last June to this year. I am losing $62 in healthcare premiums. Thank you for serving. Thank you for your longevity. Thank you for being here. Let me take another $62. Over the last 18 years, I've been coaching cross country. We've gone past the typical season by 2, 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks. Every time we go past the 3.5 weeks, we don't get a stipend. We get a hey. We don't even get a thank you. They just expect us to work for free. How many people would like to work for free for 3 weeks? This is disgusting. It's embarrassing. We just want to be treated like everybody else. Would you like it if you got treated like this and you said, work 3 weeks? You guys did such a great job because you made it to states. You made it to the Meet of Champs. You made it to regionals. You know what? We're not going to pay you for those 3 weeks. Thank you. Something needs to be done. It's affecting everybody's lives here. I work not only as a teacher, I coach, I do construction, I wait tables, I tutor. And the reason I do that is because every year since 2009, I've been losing money. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Slott. Anyone else? Seeing none, public comment is now closed. As president of the board and on the negotiations team, I can tell you that we are all parents who champion and support our staff to provide our students with the most comprehensive education possible, while also remaining respectful of our budget and impact on our taxpayers. Prior to entering negotiations, the Board of Education determines our priorities by discussing our district goals with the administration and the contractual changes that will provide our district with the opportunity to best serve our students. We do understand the frustration that brought many of you here this evening. I hope you realize that we are just as upset that we couldn't finalize a contract during our fact-finding session. As a parent of 4 thriving students in our district and athletes, I could not place a value on a teacher or a coach and the student and parent relationships and their effect on my children's lives. We're all on the same team, supporting our community of students who depend upon us to make the best decisions for them each and every day. Please don't be discouraged by the length of the negotiation process. I know it's difficult. I'm there every night. Understand that the process will complete when the best decisions can be agreed upon, and 1 or 2 months longer seems painful as can be, but it doesn't mean that we're any further apart in our goals. Hopefully, we will not have to stand here very long, and we will get through this process much faster than it's already gone. We are Hopewell, and we're in this together. Dr. Smith, would you like to respond?
I actually can't comment on negotiations,
That's fine.
but you know, we hope for a successful conclusion in a short amount of time.
So we will be meeting again on November 5th, and hopefully that will be the last. Okay, moving on to any items of old business. Seeing none. Consent agenda. Does anything need to be removed from our consent agenda? Any discussion? I'd like a motion then to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain? Motion carries. We have a very special, you're not just a guest now, this is your inauguration. We've got a very large audience. Welcome.
Mr. Patel's going to introduce.
Yes.
Good evening, Ms. Doldy, Dr. Smith, and members of the board. It gives me great pleasure as the vice principal of Central High School, standing in for our principal, Ms. Tana Smith, to introduce to you our 2018-2019 student representative to the Board of Education, Shabani Shah. Shabani is a well-rounded and bright student, taking some of our most rigorous courses this year at Central High School, including AP Calc, AP Gov, AP Bio, and AP Lit. She is a member of Student Council. She is the president of Global Connections, a club that focuses on fostering international educational diplomacy through meaningful service opportunities, including the Kenya Summer Abroad experience. Shabani is also part of the National Honor Society, in which she tutors students and participates in other community service activities. Her hobbies include running, listening to podcasts, visiting the art museum, and watching football. Philadelphia Eagles, correct? Miss Smith had a Go Giants thing in here, but I didn't want to read it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Shabani Shah, this year's student representative to the Board of Education.
Hello, everyone. Once again, my name's Shabani Shah. So I guess we'll get right into it. I'm going to start with the past events that have happened this past month. First things first, the distinguished graduates, they came Friday, September 28th to HVCHS, and they spoke to the sophomores and juniors. And afterwards, there was a luncheon held in which student council and student government members had the opportunity to have conversations with the distinguished grads. Next up's the Pep Rally. The Pep Rally for the fall was a major success. Many students loved the DJ segment that we added in with Mr. Holland, one of the teachers at the high school. And student council plans on continuing to have a DJ appearance for the upcoming fall Pep Rallies. For homecoming, during the halftime of the Friday football game, Nick Petrinferno and Kathy Griffin were crowned homecoming royalty. And for the dance, that was another success for student council. This was the second homecoming dance we've held. And based on the pre-sale and the at-the-door ticket sales, student council raised more than $9,000 from dance ticket sales. The dance was held in the newly constructed cafeteria at the high school with Mr. Holland as the DJ. The PSAT was administered last week, October 10th, for the sophomores and juniors, and freshmen and seniors had a delayed opening around 3 hours after. Last week, there was also a Minding Your Mind assembly in which it was held for all grades, and Jordan Burnham was the speaker. He was a survivor of suicide, and he spoke with the students about his story, mental health issues and disorders affecting high school students. Next up is the talent show. This was held Friday, October 12th at the PAC. Students performed various acts of talent ranging from singing and dancing, and the proceeds went towards the CHS Choral Music Department. Last week was the Week of Respect. In New Jersey, the first week in October has been designated as the Week of Respect to help prevent harassment, intimidation, and bullying in schools across the state. This year, Hopewell focused on the topic of hazing. Throughout the week, there were daily morning announcements with information about hazing, and during lunch, Panda members had people write responses to the phrase, "For Bulldogs, teamwork is blank." For the Hopewell Valley Marching Band, there was a competition this past Saturday at the MetLife Stadium, and the marching band won their 4th consecutive first place Yamaha Cup trophy. Moving on to sports, last Saturday, October 13th, HV girls soccer and field hockey had their senior day games. Field hockey and girls soccer both had wins. Field hockey beating West Windsor, Plainsboro North 1-0, advancing to the next round of counties, and girls soccer beating Ewing High School 6-1. HV boys soccer also had their senior night game October 10th, beating Robbinsville High School 3-2. Boys cross country won the Valley Division, with Sean Dolan and Will Titus taking gold and silver. HV football played against Notre Dame last Friday with a tough loss of 16-39. And HV girls tennis beat Notre Dame 4-1 on October 10th. In terms of upcoming events, there is a blood drive that Student Council plans to host sometime in November. There's usually one held in the spring as well. For the HBCHS drama department, they are having a fall play of William Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, November 2nd and 3rd at 7:30 p.m. at the PAC. There is also a marching black and gold competition October 20th, which is a U.S. bands competition held at Hopewell. There's going to be several MCT and state tournaments in the upcoming month for various sports, including field hockey, soccer, and tennis. Finally, there is going to be a pink out football game this Friday against Princeton High School. It's a home game with a pink out theme to honor breast cancer awareness.
Thank you, Shabani, for that really comprehensive report. It was awesome. Now you have a very high bar set for yourself now. So welcome. We really appreciate everything you'll be doing for us for the next year, keeping us abreast of what's going on. Really appreciate it. And just warning you that towards the end of all of this, you're going to get a lot of questions about what's up next year. So have that as part of your report. We just have to keep asking questions. Dr. Smith?
All right. So we have a student presentation this evening, but before I do that, I would just like, now I can comment, I would like to draw everyone's attention to the back of the room, which is our Hopewell Valley mission statement. I'm beginning all of my public meetings this year with just reminding us why we're here, and I think I would like to acknowledge the folks in this room and the board at this table in doing all we can to make sure that we do nurture the unique talents of each individual, creating a fulfilled, socially responsible lifelong learner, developing the competence and capabilities to face the challenges of a rapidly changing world, and promoting a respect of culture that values diversity. There was a committee several years ago worked long and hard on that mission statement. And I think by focusing on that, we've accomplished a tremendous amount, which includes the most recent accolades by the niche rankings as well as New Jersey Monthly. And that is due to the hard work of a lot of folks in this room, and I would just like to thank them for that. We have a shining example of really nurturing a student to be successful in their chosen path, and that is Sonia Mikulak, who is here this evening to talk about an award that she received. Sonia is our first repeat board acknowledgement. You might remember her. She was with us back in middle school where she won an award, a significant award, and if I see Miss Diana Cohn, and brought in a significant amount of money to the district because of that. And I think a trip to Disney? A trip to Disney? Yes. For that. This time, she's hit the big time, received, although Disney is pretty big time, so, but this time she received the Presidential Environmental Youth Award, an honor that the Department of Environmental Protection gives out to recognize the outstanding environmental protection projects undertaken by students in grades K through 12. So Sonia's going to give us a brief kind of update about what she's doing. Yeah. Full disclosure, I think Mr. Sawicki might be the only one who understands the in-depth that you're going to go to of
Hey, careful.
budget.
Should I be by my board?
Well, you want to? We can bring the board to you.
Yeah,
That works.
sure.
Okay.
Thanks. Do you need? Oh.
I'm here, Sonia, so you might want to go here. I'm sorry. Okay. And the mic's here. So you want me to bring the mic over there? What's easiest for you? Go here. Oh no. Thank you, Mr. Curtis.
All right.
Good?
Thank you for having me here tonight. I'd just like to take a few minutes to go into what I've been doing. So I was given the Presidential's Environmental Youth Award, and it wasn't exactly for one individual project. It was kind of for like a plethora of projects, community outreaches, and various things that I've actually been doing for 9 years. So also, if any of you have any questions, feel free to jump in and ask me. So communities are continually Sorry about that. Communities are constantly faced with questions regarding land usage and development. That's one of my focuses. Also, I do a lot with waterway assessment. And kind of like the 4 things I do a lot of community outreach. I've developed a plethora of curricula that apply to a wide range of age groups. I like to teach people about the importance of environmental advocacy, the importance of getting close to the environment. I like to advocate environmental literacy. I think it's really important that people know basic facts about the environment, about the ecosystem. I teach at like summer programs, youth groups. I get asked to, every year I speak at the Mercer County Green Fest, a whole wide range of things. I'm sorry.
Sorry, it's full disclosure, it's a bigger group than she expected.
I feel your pain.
Sorry about that. One of my curriculums, it's entitled The Salamander's Dilemma. Pardon the whimsical name, but it's to teach people about how to make informed decisions regarding environmental, like land usage, infrastructure. For example, if you have a very healthy waterway, say high taxa richness, high EPT richness, and you want to build a pipeline, and you have to build the pipeline there, well, that would be the time to use the kind of like a least invasive form of infrastructure. So instead of trenching an area, you could go underneath the ground to prevent a lot of silt from occurring. I also do a lot of personal and independent research. I look at ways to gather optimum data for stream assessment. More recently, I've looked into a lot of coding and ways to build devices actually out of recycled parts to gather the best data possible for making informed decisions regarding infrastructure and land usage. I also am a big advocate for having a very large database. I think it's really important to have data to back up any claims. That leads into another thing I do, environmental advocacy. I like to attend town meetings regarding, I know I keep saying this, land usage and infrastructure, because I really think it's important to make science the language of the debate. Because I go to these, a lot of times it's very political or very opinionated. Not a lot of people actually seem to introduce data, so I think it's important to bring in data. In addition, I am a consultant in the field of environmental biology. I've been doing this for 9 years now, so I get asked to come and teach programs, to train water monitors, to get other people involved. I do a lot with people of my own age group, which is really fun. And I also get asked a lot of questions by professionals to identify certain organisms, whether it be some sort of reptile, an amphibian, or an invertebrate. So, another thing I've been working with is DNA barcoding. This is one of my more recent things. And DNA barcoding is when you can extract DNA from any sort of organism, and from taking a segment of the DNA. For example, if it's an invertebrate, you'll look at the mitochondrial DNA. You can actually figure out exactly what that organism is down to species level. And this is really important because this can be used to identify rare or potentially endangered species. It also can be used to identify extremely mangled specimens and also get a lot of data regarding an ecosystem. So that's called eDNA, environmental DNA, so I'm doing a lot of work with that. I worked on building a device that can better preserve organisms, specifically invertebrates, for DNA barcoding, so to prevent the DNA from degrading. So I guess my vision is I think it's really important to have a lot of data backing up any claims regarding the environment. I also think it's really important to get other people involved in it. That's why I teach so many classes. I have presented at a multitude of places, from the National Geographic Society to the Smithsonian Institute to the New York Academy of Sciences. I've also done a lot of work with Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, starting to also kind of do some work writing like grant proposals and such and getting into that. And I mean, sorry, but I see it's really important to also have one program regarding herpetology, the study of reptiles and amphibians. I see it as really important that, well, there is a downfall in reptile and amphibian populations, and there's also a lot of ones that are specific species, for example, like the blue-spotted salamander, long-tailed salamander. They're really losing a lot of breeding ground due to infrastructure. So by giving people almost like a personal connection with them, by talking to them about them, especially this program is geared to usually very young kids or adults, but I get a lot of really young kids who are like, oh my goodness, snakes, and that gets them very excited. And by educating them, they're more likely in the future to want to protect them. So I'd really like to thank the board for having me. And I also would like to thank all the teachers that I've had since I've started attending the Hopewell Valley Regional School Hopewell Valley School District. I've had a lot of really inspirational teachers that have really, really helped me pursue my career.
Sonia, do you have a second for questions? Sonia, do you want to describe the fish that you created?
My pet fish, Pumpkin.
Yes.
So I have...
This is what Sonia does in her spare time. So
I have a sunfish named Pumpkin. She is a hybrid sunfish. So she is a mix between a pumpkin seed and a green sunfish. And I keep a fish tank. I keep fish.
So you created that by
Yes,
extracting the DNA.
She's my she's a very aggressive fish, though. That's why she cannot. She's picked off every other fish in the tank. I think it's now just her and 2 others.
We're working on Sonia's evil scientist laugh.
But unfortunately for Pumpkin, I mean, technically sunfish are edible, and she's big enough to become a meal for. So that's what happens if she eats. I mean, because my sister keeps her pet in that tank too. So if it kind of like, yeah.
Excellent.
Sonia, this is coming from someone who I went to TCNJ, so I stayed close, and I was a pre-med major, minored in chemistry. I did my research under the herpetologist there, and then when I graduated, I worked at Mobile Oil, which used to be here, and I was in the aquatic tox and sensitization tox areas. And can I just tell you, you completely killed that. I'm embarrassed that I think even as a junior in college, I was a wreck every time I had to go speak in front of people. I'm just blown away by what you just did and everything you've done. I just want to ask you, what would you like to do with this? Do you have an idea of like where you want to go, what you want to do?
I could really see myself at one point owning like a research facility or like a laboratory. Potentially like writing grants, organizing research. I'd also really like to work with genetics. I really like the DNA barcoding or bioinformatics. I find that really cool. And I think, yeah, also making more fish like Pumpkin. Like
Well, I can tell you, you can do some really cool things with what you're doing. Like, we did the work in Aruba. So we would, like, some of the students would go down and do the work down there. I actually did the genetic work when they came back. I didn't go to Aruba myself. So you can end up in some pretty cool places studying reptiles because they're endangered in a lot of places. So what you are doing is just simply amazing, and I just cannot thank you enough for sharing it with us. I'm just totally engaged. Congratulations.
thank you so much.
Sonia, if you
You need a white lab coat, girl.
yeah.
Although Rosetta would probably tell you to wear red or something.
Congrats. See you in bio tomorrow.
I have not seen the fish. I've only heard stories about it. But I just. Sonia, next time you have to bring pictures of fish. Next time we meet, bring pictures. I'd like to see.
How big is the fish? Can you just bring it here next time?
That's
You have to share the picture with us. I'm
as big as,
completely fascinated.
as big as a pumpkin.
Thank you so much.
Next up on the agenda is Mr. Suzo presenting our public hearing on violence and vandalism and substance abuse, as well as the anti-bullying district self-assessment.
It's a tough
Way to
act.
clear out a room.
Yeah, I
Mr.
cleared the
Suzo.
room. I don't have a fish to talk about. You know, whew, that's okay. All right, so each and every year we're required to present to the Board of Education our full year violence and vandalism report. If you remember from February, I reported out on a half-year, mid-year check on violence and vandalism. So now this is our full year as far as our numbers are concerned for the 2017-2018 school year. So if you look at first the breakdown by location, you'll see the different categories that we have, substance offense, vandalism, violence, weapons, the number of HIB reports that is reported, and then the actual number of HIB that are confirmed. It's broken down by building. It's always a good sign when you look at the report and see that there's a 0 under weapons, which thankful we had no issues with that last year. One of the numbers that does jump out, and we've talked about it as a board, is the number of HIB specifically reported at Timberlane and confirmed, so I will talk a little bit more in greater detail about that. When we look at our trends, you can see that we had a significant reduction in substance abuse compared to the 2016-17 school year, where we had a pretty significant spike. Our HIBs that are reported, harassment, intimidation, and bullying reports, and confirmed reports are kind of pretty consistent over the last 3 years throughout the district. This is just a form that we utilize that we're required to fill out by the state anytime we have an issue with violence and vandalism. Along with that, anytime there isn't a harassment, intimidation, or bullying incident, we're required to fill out this form as well and submit it to the state. When we take a look at programming, the reason why our numbers, I think, are where they are, we've had a lot of proactive programs. As a board, we have talked about one of the focuses is on social emotional learning. And I wanted to point out specifically, we're doing it district-wide, but specifically at Timberlane, because that is an area of focus based on our numbers. I know that Principal Gianfreddi is embarking on what's called Timberlane Teamwork Days, which that work is specifically focused on social emotional learning. And I know that there was already one day that took place in September. There's another day that's coming at the end of October. So there's a lot of work being done in those areas to focus on with our students. We are using the CASTLE framework, which we've talked about a little bit already as a board. We did a pretty extensive mental health training with our staff last Monday on October 8th as part of our in-service. As the board knows, we've introduced random drug testing this year. We continue to have an emphasis on mindfulness throughout the district and mindfulness minutes. We're extremely fortunate in the number of counselors that we have at all levels to help support our students. Our campus safety officers who are in place. We have an excellent relationship with Hopewell Township Police Department, and we instituted this year See Something, Say Something. So if students do see something that's concerning to them, it's really important, and we have a variety of different vehicles, specifically our TIPS hotline, which can be a phone call or an email where they can report something anonymously. We've also instituted at each one of our buildings what's called a threat assessment team. It's made up of a building principal, a school psychologist, our campus safety officer. And if for some reason there is an area of concern, either with a student or even perhaps a staff member, it can be reported using a referral form, and then that threat assessment team kind of takes a look at that, manages it, and decides on what are next steps, which could be a variety of different avenues. We're extremely fortunate to have a student assistance counselor not only at the high school but also at the middle school to help support our students. Obviously our anti-bullying specialists, and we heard just a little bit before from our board representative about Week of Respect. And then this week, actually, from the state of New Jersey, is Violence and Vandalism Awareness Week. So all the many programs that we have in place to help support our students in this particular area. Any questions about the violence and vandalism before I go on to the HIB?
So, two things. You said that the number of HIBs reported at the middle school is up. Is that just an anomaly? Is it a trend? I mean, I see we're constant overall.
Yeah.
The number reported, but I think the number of middle schools up.
It is, and I think to answer your question, it has been a bit of a trend the last couple of years where the ones that we have confirmed, the majority have come from the middle school, and that's the reason why, as a team at the middle school and also as the HIB coordinator for the district, spent a lot of time really breaking down those reports and looking for trends in specific areas of focus to see if there's commonalities. I think there has been some related around the areas of race and religion. And with that, it's one of the reasons why a lot of time and energy has gone into the planning for this particular school year in the social emotional learning work that we'll be doing with our students.
The other question is on substance abuse. It dropped dramatically. This is even before the random testing was put in. Any reason for that? Is it just a return to a more normal state that 2016, 17 was extremely high? Or something we can attribute that to?
I would say, the year before, a good number of those incidents were involving seniors that we had, that did move on and graduated. But my hope would be that we have put a lot of time and effort, even beyond the random drug testing, which obviously was a big topic of conversation in the spring with the board. A lot of other program supports in place at the high school after we saw that number of 24 to help support our students and make sure we're doing as much as we possibly can proactively to educate them about the dangers of drugs and alcohol. So my hope is that we've reaped some of the benefits of that. You know, I know that the random drug testing conversation started, you know, earlier in the spring last year, so I know that information had gotten out. Perhaps that could have been a deterrent even as of early as last year, with students not understanding when exactly that would come into play. And hopefully that trend of the lower numbers will continue as we move forward.
My recollection was that, well, those are incidents. They're not necessarily unique individuals. So
Correct.
There were some repeat cases.
Correct. And that year before, you're absolutely right, Adam. All right, then we'll move on to the HIB self-assessment. So the HIB self-assessment, just to give background, each building has what's called a school safety and climate team. It's made up of the building principal, our anti-bullying specialist for that particular building, typically a few teachers, and then also a parent from that building. And each year, late in the spring, they're required to fill out from the state a self-assessment on a variety of different categories. And the rating scales for that self-assessment basically go from a 0, meaning it does not meet the requirements, all the way up to a 3, meaning it exceeds all requirements. The state provides a checklist of information of what would fall into, for example, a 1, a 2, or a 3. And using that information, the safety team meets, sits down, and does a self-assessment, also reviewing their HIB reports for the year. So it's broken down in different core elements. The first core element just deals specifically with the programming, the fact that there is established HIB programming and approaches. The school annually documents those programs and assesses those programs. And obviously that the school safety teams are looking at, you know, identifying patterns and depending upon each school. As our numbers indicate, some schools, you know, have a much lower amount of HIB, so there's not as many reports. One in particular had no HIB. So obviously there's not as much information compared to somewhere like our middle school spent a lot of time on this. If we look at core element number 2, it's more about training, providing training to all of our staff and also to our students, and obviously discussing with them the different distinguishing characteristics of the HIB policy. This year, a new twist, as the board is well aware of, there were some changes to the HIB law as of July 1, and with balance of power being added. So now that is additional training that we've already provided with our students and their staff for this year. If we look at other staff instruction and training programs, for that letter A, I had mentioned that we had our in-service last week on Monday. We actually do that on an annual basis, so we had the 2 hours of training with George Scott last week. We do annual training with our staff on HIB prevention. We don't do it every 5 years. We do that annually. And then obviously our anti-bullying specialists are provided professional development if needed, and our school safety teams as well are provided that, and our school leadership team that spends a lot of time with me, especially during the summer, on training in HIB and also any changes that come down the pike as far as the law is concerned. If we take a look at 4, it's more based on curriculum and instruction, so making sure that for letter B, we're doing our Week of Respect activities, which we have to report in to the state, but as I mentioned to the Personnel Committee, that's not just about 1 week, that's an ongoing effort throughout the year. And also taking a look at, you know, with our core curriculum content standards and the correlations with obviously harassment, intimidation, and bullying, character education. Our HIB personnel for core element 5, where principal has to appoint the ABSs, meet with me twice a year to discuss different events and trends, and then also they have to meet at least twice a year as their school safety teams. And then when we look at core element number 6, it talks about our reporting procedures, making sure that we have forms that are on the website. They are available to parents if need be with Form 1. And then when we look at number 7, it's more about the actual investigation procedures. So the fact that we are following the guidelines. There's a 10-day window where if there's an incident that's reported to when the report and the investigation needs to be completed, there is a written report that's provided. Superintendent receives that within two days of the completion of the investigation. And then finally for number 8, that's more of a public piece. So specifically each year, usually around January, we'll receive grades based on our numbers from the state, and we need to post that document on our website so it is a public document. If you go to our website now and click on HIB, you'll see that information for the last several years. You'll see our scores here at the bottom from year to year. You may wonder, what does that mean? When you look at what the state gives you, basically a score of 50 indicates you're meeting all the state requirements. You can see when this started back in 12-13, our numbers were a bit lower. We focused on specific areas for improvement, And you can see for this year, our average for each score is the same actually as it was last year. Any questions about the HIB self-assessment?
I just had one, Tony, which is like core element 3. If you look at part C there, it says the anti-bullying specialist was given time during the usual school schedule to participate in service training. Just noticing that Timberlane has a 2 instead of a 3. Is there anything in terms of schedule or whatever that precluded us from providing, you know, training opportunity that the rest of the schools had?
It did, and we actually have already rectified that, where we had a bunch of folks, our anti-bullying specialists that went to a training in August, and another round that have actually gone to 2 trainings since the school year started. So we saw that, we identified it, and we targeted and made sure that whatever we need to do to close that gap, we were able to do. So for this year, I would expect to see a 3 for that.
Great, thank you.
May I just ask a question about the violence and vandalism thing? No, I guess more about the anti-bullying. Just how we present the new change to the power struggle to the students. Have we discussed that much with the students? And
Typically varies by level. High school is usually by grade level when the administration meets with grade levels. Middle school is by team, and elementary is by classroom, typically with the counselor that will come in and do that work.
And they just kind of describe what those power differentials look like?
And typically we'll do scenarios with the kids and provide them information on, you know, based on this, and knowing the aspects of the HIB law. Would you consider this a HIB, not a HIB, why, and that type of dialogue.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else on the board want to ask any questions? Okay. Members of the public are invited to address the board specifically on the violence, vandalism, and substance abuse report and the self-assessment for anti-bullying for a maximum of 3 minutes during this portion of the meeting. You're asked to state your name, address, and municipality. In response to your comments, the Board of Education may respond or direct the superintendent to do so. The board may also opt to take the matter up at a future meeting so that the matter is researched by district administration. Public comment?
Related
Anyone?
to this.
Yep.
Oh, that's right.
Seeing none? Okay, public comment on these matters is now closed. May I have a motion, please, to accept the reports?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained? Motion carries. Mr. DiDonato, Finance and Facilities.
So I don't have anything to move tonight, but we did have we had a decent meeting, and in the end we talked about as opposed to not a decent Anyway, we did discuss the referendum and some of the components and outlier components in the referendum. So obviously we're still expecting some delays. We have progress. A lot of the big things are coming to closure, we feel, by the end of the year. We met with some of the major contracting companies and discussed the plan, et cetera. So I think ultimately we're looking very good and still hopeful at this point. Next month may be a different report. We also discussed, some of the other areas of things that are transpiring in our other schools, and hopefully we'll have a good report, solid, more itemized report by our next board meeting. That's really it.
Thank you, Mr. DiDonato. Any questions?
No, I would just like to point out and thank Dr. Smith for including project timelines in Green Notes, sharing with the board. So thank you.
Fingers crossed, Roger.
Understood.
We are working on a different format to provide sort of an easy to read executive summary template. So we should have a newer, more easier version to provide.
As long as it's decent.
Hope so.
Okay, personnel. Thank you. Yeah, your spiel.
Would you like me to start? No,
No, you're good.
Great, perfect. And specifically, we have hired one substitute bus driver, which there's been a big issue around the busing. So we've hired one substitute bus driver. Hopefully, another one will soon be in the works for that.
I'm not sure the students want us to fix the bus problem because they're kind of liking the limos. Anyway. All right. So all those in, or roll call, right?
Mr.
Roll
Colavita?
call.
Could I make a request to have separate roles for personnel and extracurricular appointments, please?
So we do a roll call right now for the first part of personnel.
Okay.
Mr. DiGiannato?
Yes.
Mr. Markula?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Ms. Pallara?
Yes.
Mr. Swicki?
Yes.
Ms. Tracy?
Yes.
Ms. Murray?
Yes. And we'd like to do another roll call on ACAs. A motion, please? We need a motion second for that, too? Okay.
So moved.
Okay.
Mr. Markula?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Ms. Pallara?
Yes.
Mr. Swicki?
Abstain.
Ms. Tracy?
Yes.
Mr. DiGiannato?
Yes.
Ms. Murray?
Yes. All right. Ed program. So. Yeah, would somebody like to make a motion? Oh, yeah, you're right. Yep. Thank you.
Attended our committee meeting along with our AP Spanish teacher, Ms. Laura, to share information about a pilot program they're proposing with AP College Board. They offer a number of courses now that marry the current curriculum in those courses with service learning. True service learning where students are engaging in identifying a problem that they want to address within the theme of the class. In this case, Spanish, the theme is equity and providing equal access to education for students who don't have that access. So the students, in addition to taking the coursework in the Spanish class, will also be designing a service learning project either in teams or individually that have a local and a global connection. Students who participate in this program will be able to get an extra endorsement on the diploma that will identify the work that they've done in service learning, and it does require hours of service learning where students actually create this project, implement it, and then have to report back to stakeholders their findings. So really exciting work that goes beyond just community service and really, really gets students involved in philanthropic work. So that's amazing. They're partnering with, AP is partnering with a corporate, a company called WE, or it's not really, it's an organization that already does this work in corporate America and has partnered with other organizations to bring this very important work with our students now. So we're going to try Spanish, see how that goes, and then there's opportunities to add it to other courses like AP Environmental Science, Computer Science, they offer for a number of courses. So we're very excited to be piloting this. We also talked about the park results. We have good news stories there. We also still have identified some areas where we need to do a little bit more work. That report will be shared with you in November. But generally, we're starting to see some good upward ticks in our student performance, especially areas where we introduce new curriculum. So we're excited about that. We adopted the school professional development plan. These are aligned to our district goals that we shared last week. Second chance learning, school safety, social emotional
Thank you, Dr. Treese. Just to really highlight the AP WE pilot program, I think first of all, I want to commend Ms. Moore for bringing it to the attention of her supervisor and Dr. Treese. So it's really coming from within, and she sought it out, and I really think it's going to make a huge impact on our AP program and on the sciences as well as the humanities. So I really want to commend that teacher for doing that. So just keep your eyes open, because I think this is going to expand. I think it's addressing an area that we as a board have really been asking for, really connecting the students to community service that's really curriculum oriented and really comes from within the students. That's part of this whole program is to become something that the students are going to create those projects. It's not going to be just handed to them. So I think that's really a neat way to go for service learning. So I don't know, Adam, any thoughts on that too, because you were there today?
No, it was actually
good. Okay. All right. I guess we'll. Does anybody from community relations want to say anything about community relations? Or should we just go?
Mr. Sleek.
I don't have any notes with me. I don't remember. I don't remember we talked about them.
Sure.
Sorry.
That's all right.
I could, if you want me to just jump in.
If you have notes.
Yep, we talked about and reviewed the process for how the district handles the death of a student or a parent or former students. And there are some recommendations about sharing that information with the Board of Education as we receive that information, make sure people are in the loop. Talked about our niche rankings and reviewing that. Lisa's the chair of this committee. Reviewed our district goals, which we added communications committee to several of our goals, and talked about messaging for negotiations.
Great, thank you.
And also, this was in a previous meeting, but later on, the board is asked to review and approve an updated calendar for the school year, for this school year, with respect to the snow days. And the board, we've discussed it publicly before, but just making it absolutely official, the board approving the e-learning days for snow days 1 and 2. So that's 181 and 182 the days, but they would be the first ones they were used. So in addition to getting my snow call, you'll get some e-learning to do. That'll count as the day, so we don't have to go into the later. We don't add days to the end of the year. So hopefully this will provide some relief if we were to need it.
I hope you're okay if the kids don't celebrate your phone call as much as they used to.
Yeah. We're trying to figure out how we tack this onto the video and still make it happy.
Mr. Sawicki.
Okay, so can I get a motion to move the policies and regulations for first reading?
So moved.
Second.
Great. So we have two. We have policy 7440 and regulation 7440 on school security. And we discussed these at our board retreat 2 weeks ago. The primary focus of these was to incorporate the district's new use of the ALICE format, and all board members took the ALICE training, so we're all ALICE certified. So that's great. That made us familiar with it, and if anything, there were additional presentations that Mr. Suzo gave us that were very informative and useful at the retreat. So, we're recommending the adoption of these revisions to the policy and rec.
Also, if I could just jump in, it also adds the designation of a school administrator as the school safety specialist, which that is an additional other duties as assigned under Mr. Souza's job description, which he will be working through.
So would we like to?
We call it a growth opportunity.
Yep. I'd like a voice vote on the first readings. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose, abstained? Motion carries.
Okay. And then we have a lot on deck for second reading. We have policy 5350 and regulation 5350 for student suicide prevention, Policy 5561 and the associated regulation for use of physical restraints and seclusion techniques for students with disabilities. Policy 5533 for student smoking. Policy 5535 for passive breath alcohol sensor device. Policy 5512, harassment, intimidation, and bullying. Policy 8561, procurement procedures for school nutrition programs. And Policy 8505, local wellness nutrient policy, nutrient standards for meals and other foods. So a lot on the deck. With regard to first reading, everything is as it was for first reading, with the exceptions of the student suicide prevention policy. And that's basically due to the fact that Dr. Treese gave us some very excellent suggestions on how we could make that a little bit better based upon her work with a national organization that deals with helping with student suicide prevention. So thank her for that, and based upon those revisions, we're recommending those two be approved for second reading as well, along with the others.
Thank you.
So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor of the second readings?
Oh, voice.
Oh, this is a roll call. Sorry. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Ms. Polaro? Mr. Sawicki?
Yes.
Ms. Tracy?
Yes.
Mr. DiDonato?
Yes.
Mr. Markula? Yes.
Yes.
If I could just make one comment, and you hear me say this almost every month, but I think this month we're at over almost 70 pages of policy. Policies are not fun things to read or edit, but I would like to commend Adam Sawicki for his work on doing this, picking up every comma and period. But the whole policy committee and really the review of these are pretty significant ones. The suicide and security policies, not that they're all not important, but those in particular are ones that can have a profound impact on the lives of our students and staff. So the seriousness that you took those, you edited those with, and just your oversight and care of those is really appreciated. So thank you, because that is, it's much appreciated.
No, absolutely. If anything, also a shout out to Pete, who came up with more potential definitions of smoking and tobacco use than I can ever remember.
That's a transdermal.
Yes, yes. He was extremely thorough in making sure we had all bases covered.
And do we also have to accept the calendars?
Revised, we had a vote on the revised calendar.
Okay.
The revised calendar, as I mentioned, includes e-learning on snow days 1 and 2. So if we have 2 snow days, where last day of school will remain June 20th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose, abstain? Motion carries.
And just so you know, we're working on thematic units that will be used K to 12, social emotional learning, possibly security portion of it, as well as executive functioning skills that will kind of be universal
Oh, as
Was
the
there for
e-learning days.
E-learning days?
for the e-learning days.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. Cool.
That will all be communicated. I usually send out my get ready for winter letter in mid-November, so we'll communicate that through that.
Thanksgiving is like around the corner. Oh, Lord. Oh, stop. Who's have a birthday coming around?
So board calendars. Motion, please.
Motion.
Great. So election day is coming up. November 6th. Negotiations, November 5th.
So Pete, I'm gonna suggest we move finance just to this one meeting, the 6:15, because we have the auditor coming that day. That's fine. Questions, so just take it up for 15 minutes. But they remember, we're gonna be at the high school that night. Tom, we're gonna stay at the high school.
The 12th?
The 12th.
Remember, we're gonna be at the high school.
Yeah, we typically have at the high school National Merit, the recognition of National Merit Scholars.
I'm not going to be able to be here on the 12th.
From the standpoint of policy, it looks like the Thursday and Friday before that meeting are closed. So
I think we have the 8th.
Yeah, that's the 4th.
Monday morning.
We had it scheduled.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Oh, I'm not used to seeing it on Mondays.
Yeah.
Anything missing? Okay. Right. You adjusting that? All right. Anything else? So all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Motion carries. Another public comment. Members of the public are invited to address the board on any matter for a maximum of 3 minutes during this portion of the meeting. You are asked to state your name, address, and municipality. In response to your comments, the Board of Education may respond or direct the superintendent to do so. The board may also opt to take the matter up at a future meeting so that the matter is researched by the district administration. Public comment is now open. Seeing none, public comment is now closed. Items of new business.
Yes, I had one item of new business. So there was some communication between certain members of the board based upon, I guess, some issues we're having with scheduling gym availability. I guess the issue has to do with the fact that we have 2 organizations that run basketball sessions with schools, the Hopewell Basketball Association and I guess the Pennington Basketball Association. And the reason I bring it up is just that there had been a question about whether we were following our district policy in regard to the scheduling, and it related to, were the organizations being scheduled in accordance with what we specified in terms of prioritization. And, if you look at our regulation that handles this, there's a hierarchy of who gets priority. And there was a question put to us basically in terms of whether we're following that policy. So Dr. Smith had responded to those of us who had been contacted, but I think it was important for the board as a whole to know about the situation and what was discussed. So, Tom?
Sure.
If you could just highlight.
Sure. Just so everyone knows, space is at a premium in the district, which is one of the reasons why we went out to referendum for additional wellness space or gymnasium space. In addition, the board approved a number of years ago expanding some of our extra and co-curricular activities. So we have winter color guard and winter percussion that take place also. So that, we have our hierarchy of school takes precedent over everybody's school events. So that's really reduced overarching the amount of time that's available for outside communities. When we get that, we go to the policy and we go through the hierarchy. Here we have now kind of 2 competing organizations that are starting to go after the same pool of kids, and decisions have to be made, and we brought everybody together last year and we tried to mediate an agreement between them, and we came to a successful mediation in that no one was happy with where we landed, but when we got the gym requests this year, looking at all things, we really just basically went with the same dole out as last year, and working through that, looking at our hierarchy. Also, a portion you didn't mention was we have a part in our policy that works to ensure equity and fairness and access to all, so that one organization does not monopolize all facilities. So that's also what we employed, where Bob and I have to make a decision, making sure there's access so that one organization doesn't come in and take every available gym space so nobody else can come in and use it. So we did employ that as part of it also. But we do have some gym space. Our admin gym has some space. No one seems to enjoy playing in our admin space. I have the old yearbooks from some of the pictures that took place in that space when it was brand new. But not to make light of it, we know we have to do some work there. But our goal is to try to do our best in providing fair and equitable access to our facilities. If part of a negotiation or a mediation is that not everybody's happy, we've accomplished that with that, and it's just, I don't know if we would have enough facilities for everybody's wants or needs, so we have to make some decisions.
Thank you. Okay, so I'd like to have a motion, please, to go into executive session. During that executive session, we will be discussing harassment, intimidation, bullying matters, and a personal matter.
So moved.
Personnel.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose, abstain? Motion carries.